Right, I need to talk about this Super League situation because I'm watching it as a football fan in complete astonishment. The audacity of these 12 teams to think they have the God given right to play each other every single year. I'm not fully certain I'll upload this, but I need to vent somewhere. 3 of these 12 teams are in the Champions League semi finals, fair enough. 3 of them have been knocked out in the knockout stages so far already, 2 of those by other Super League sides. But 2 of these 12 teams that are in the Super League, Inter Milan and Manchester United, did not get out of the group stage of the Champions League. Inter Milan, whilst significantly top of Serie A right now, were bottom of their group. Inter Milan were so bad in the Champions League this year, they did not get out of their group stage. They did not even get transferred to the Europa League like Manchester United did. And speaking of the Europa League, that's where we'll find the remainder of these 12 apparent best teams in Europe. Tottenham Hotspur and AC Milan had to go through the qualifying stages of the Europa League just to be a part of the group stages. AC Milan nearly didn't make the group stages. They were nearly knocked out by Rio Ave before they even got to the group stage. So, whilst similarly to Inter Milan, they're doing rather well in the Serie A this year, their European campaign hasn't been sensational. And as for Arsenal in the Europa League this season, realistically, only Benfica are an opponent that they're probably not expected to best automatically. Tottenham Hotspur, of course, knocked out by Dynamo Zagreb. No matter which way you swing the criteria for the inclusion of these 12 sides into this competition, if it's based on trophies, why are Tottenham Hotspur there? If it's based on the current status and quality of the club, then why are Arsenal there? Sorry to Arsenal fans, but come on. It's utterly, utterly baffling. Well, I say it's utterly baffling. It's obvious the reason what the criteria is for this. It's money. It's all based on money. It's pure greed, and everyone's fully aware of that. Let's be honest here. We're all fully aware this is all about greed. None of these 12 owners care about the game whatsoever. It's all about the money. And what this European Super League means for European football as a whole is obviously incredibly dramatic. And I'm going to start with an example from 2011-2012. Apoel, a side based in Cyprus, got out of their Champions League group. It was a fantastic achievement to even be in the Champions League group stage from Apoel, but they got out of their group, they topped their group, got past the first knockout round, and found themselves up against Real Madrid in the next round. Apoel, aside from Cyprus, did so well in this European competition, they got to fight the titan that is Real Madrid. They were utterly destroyed, but they got to fight Real Madrid. And that's what it's about. That's what this is about. These European clubs that sort of come out of nowhere. I mean, Ajax, not a tiny club, of course, but they had a fantastic run a couple of years back. They showed European football what football should be all about. And it's just utterly shambolic that these owners of these 12 clubs think that they only have the right to play each other. And it's so clear that they've not thought of anything other than money. They've not thought of any of the consequences. There's talk of the Premier League activating, essentially, the rule that is L9 in the contract for Premier League clubs, that they're not allowed to be part of any competition that isn't prescribed in the list under L9, which obviously doesn't include the Super League. So they could, in theory, be removed from the Premier League. And if they remove these 6 clubs from the Premier League, what does that do to the entire English football structure? Do they have to promote 6 teams from every division until the numbers make sense? In my opinion, they probably ought to just promote 6 teams all the way through to League 2 and then sort it out from Vanarama and below and give a solidarity payment for lost match revenue because there'll be less games down there as a result. That's probably the best way of doing it, if that is the case that doesn't unfold. But if they are promoting 6 teams from every division below the Premier League, then suddenly, how do you sort that out? Do you do the top 5 and do a playoff for the 6th position, which means teams all the way down to 9th are suddenly important? Teams that sort of ended up at mid-table at this stage with a few games to go, 9th, 10th, 11th, not reasonably expected to get into the current playoff spots, suddenly they've got something to play for again. And it just affects the entire mentality of the remaining games, because if those games are important, then that changes everything. Certain teams will try more. Teams should always try, but let's be honest, sometimes footballers go a little bit on holiday when there's nothing to play for realistically in their season. My team, Lincoln, my home team, Lincoln, after a horrible run of fixtures, find themselves 4th. I mean, fingers crossed they're not likely to fall out of the player spots at this point, but also at the same time, they've got no chance of hitting those automatic spots anymore either. So they've just got to try well enough to stay 4th. But if 4th and 5th are automatic spots now, then that's a huge deal. And of course, realistically, one of the biggest deals right now is it's for the 3 teams in the relegation spots to the Premier League. If they eject 6 clubs, then are they saved? And it's not just sorting out the Football League structures, it's a case of who goes where. If they ban these players from the international tournaments, then does that mean Messi and Ronaldo are likely to leave? Ronaldo rumoured to leave anyway, and Messi's always got a situation whether he'll go anywhere else during the summers in recent years as well. I remember last year, of course, the whole transfer saga with Messi last summer. I put a quid on he'd actually end up going to Bayern Munich because they were the recent Champions League winners at the time. He ended up staying, of course, but I figured if he was going to go anywhere from Barcelona, he'd go to one of the clubs that are most likely going to win their home division. He wasn't going to go to Premier League, I didn't think, because it's too competitive. I think he wanted silverware at that point, and he would probably go to Bayern or PSG, two teams that are reasonably expected to basically stroll to the title every year. PSG, of course, haven't done that this year, but Bayern, very much still an option. Will we see Messi leave? And of course, Bayern and Dortmund and PSG have come out and said they're not going to be part of this. They would be probably the most sought after clubs to be going to for all these players. That could, in theory, be banned. I fully expect by the time I actually upload it, there's going to be plenty more news about what's going on in all this situation. But right now, it's a what-if machine that keeps on snowballing and snowballing and snowballing. It's basically going to become a what-if avalanche within a couple of days because there's so many considerations that follow. Take Erling Haaland, for instance. He obviously has plenty of suitors right now, plenty of people trying to sign him from Borussia Dortmund, but if staying at Dortmund means he can play international football, play all these other tournaments that he'd be otherwise banned from, then why would he leave? And just a thought experiment, if a few years down the line these top 6 clubs have been banned and suddenly Leeds are an important club in England, although they're not unimportant right now, but if Leeds are suddenly a top dog in England, let's say, would he be tempted to move back to his hometown, his birthplace, and where his father played, of course? So how this affects... Right now, we're dealing with the massive ripples, of course, but those ripples keep on going. God knows what the implications will be a few years down the line, let's say. It's not a shambles is what it is, but I think this will fail one of two ways. I think out of those 12s, there are 2 likely scenarios for the way this collapses. The first scenario is Arsenal realise they've got the most to gain by pulling out first. Realistically, they're the club of the 12 that are doing the worst at the moment. Yeah, they're still in the Europa League, but domestically, they're the worst team at the moment, just based on position. I think they're likely to be one that pulls out first, and then the other cards will tumble, of course, because Arsenal will then be regarded as the ones that saved us from this situation, even though they're part of it in the first place. That's how that works. That's how image works. The second version of this, I think, is Manchester City pull out first in order to not be banned from the Champions League this season, because realistically, this is their best chance to win the Champions League since they've been a part of it. And if the rumours are true that Chelsea and Manchester City sort of only joined it just because the other 4 had done it already and they didn't want to be left behind, if that's true, which I kind of get as a rumour because, yes, their owners are worth a boatload of money already. Do they really need the extra money? Probably not. So if that's true, then that just adds fuel to the fire that Manchester City will pull out first. And then the rest will follow, of course. But for reference, I'm recording this on the afternoon of Wednesday. Jordan Henderson's just done a captain's meeting with the other captains in the Premier League, so that's where I stand right now in terms of time frame. Anything that's happened after this, obviously not going to be part of the video, but we've got to hold our hope. We've just got to do everything we can as fans of football. The worst part of this is I've just become significantly more invested in football this year and this year only. I don't know why. I mean, I've been a fan of football since I was a kid, but this past year I've been the most invested I have been in just the whole landscape of football, not just the clubs that I follow. And I think partially that's what's made it so gutting to see this happen now, because I've just become invested in this entire landscape of football. Because of the pandemic, the whole football system is struggling, and then these 12 clubs have the audacity to think they're the only ones affected by it. Yeah, they'll say they'll trickle down the money, but let's face it, trickle down economics is an utter sham. So we know that money's going to stay with them. We're not idiots. What can we do? Make as much noise as we possibly can. That's all we can do as regular Joes. That's all we can do in this situation. Make as much noise as possible. There's rumours already that the Liverpool board are hearing this outcry against it and are wavering already. They might be the first to tumble if that's true. And that's the best we can do. And the worst thing is, realistically, right now, the people with the most power are the players. If they just say they don't want to play, then their clubs are stuffed. And it's a horrible situation for those players to be in. Yes, okay, they do earn thousands of pounds a week as it is, but mentally, I wouldn't wish that on any of them. I think one of the people I feel most for right now is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because he was involved in one of the first matches after the announcement was made, and as a Champions League winner, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer knows exactly what it means to be part of that competition, what it means to have earned the right to play in that competition all the way through to the final and win it. And he was thrown under the bus pretty much straight away after that announcement was made. It's a horrible situation for everyone involved, apart from the owners, of course. But the best we can do is just hold out our faith, make as much noise as we possibly can, and hopefully see this thing just collapse. Well, I think that's enough rambling anyway for this video. Thank you for listening if you have done, and see you very soon. Ta-ra.